Welcome to the podcast, The Storyteller, in which we talk to South Africans who have a special story to tell. Spencer Oldham is an experienced boat skipper who's participated in hundreds of sea rescue operations off the coast of South Africa. He volunteers for the National Sea Rescue Institute. His formal title is Senior Coxswain and Trainer based at Hout Bay in Cape Town. He explains how COVID-19 has also affected sea rescue operations.
We've put in, obviously, with all this COVID stuff flying around the last few months, we've put together quite a staunch COVID operational protocol. We've had to train everybody up on how to do it, which has taken about a month.
Train everybody up on what to do what exactly?
How to actually go about it, because the way we look at it is the crew coming in, if they pass the selection protocols to get into the base, in other words, temperature's fine, they don't have a cough, they haven't been with anybody in the last 10 days that has a cough, that sort of stuff, and they're still wearing masks inside the base, which are their own masks, although they have been given masks, we're assuming that they are clear. But if we go out to a call out which has got other people on the boat, we have to assume that they are COVID positive. So there's a whole lot of protocol in place, like where do you put them on the boat? Do you have to sanitize where they go? Do you sanitize the patient? Do you if you put them on the boat, you have to sanitize that area afterwards. So it's quite an in-depth protocol, which everybody has to learn how to do.
This is all voluntary work.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you're having to do COVID-19 protocols, which is actually additional work, additional time.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's just go back a little bit in time. You've worked for the NSRI for 33 years, am I correct?
Round about there, yeah. It's actually,
you can't remember?
Well, it's logged in as 1988, I think it was the first official date. So yeah, we can go on 32 years. It was a bit of time before that, but 32 years is the actual official record.
All right. Well, let's be official about it then. So I'm not going to ask you why you wanted to join the NSRI. I wanted to ask you why, after 32 years, you are still volunteering for the National Sea Rescue Institute.
I was trying to explain to somebody the other day, like being a volunteer, you can't teach somebody to be a volunteer. It's either in your blood or it's not. The Sea Rescue point of view, it is one of the largest volunteer organizations in the country, and it revolves around rescue, maritime rescue, the sea, backgrounds, boats, and generally the crew that come in all have that volunteer mindset, and it's just a great place to be. I love the sea. I love boats. You get to do a lot of advanced training on the boats, so you can build up your skill levels. And after you do it for a certain period of time, you will go on a call out, and you will find that drifting boat at sunset that everyone's been looking for, that's drifting off to Argentina somewhere because they've run out of fuel, or they don't understand how the boat works and they haven't released the vacuum pump on the fuel tank, and they're just drifting off. And so actually put the skills into place that you've learned over the years with the crew that you're with, and to plot and dictate that that's where they're going to be in that search area, and you go there and they are actually there. It's very rewarding. It's you do that once or twice, and the feeling of actually saving that person and bringing them back to their families it's a very rewarding feeling.
Well, I also read this annual report of yours is very interesting, is that they gauged that about a third of the volunteers' lives is spent dedicated to the organization. And I thought, a third? A third of your time? I
Yeah.
mean,
It's sort of structured where we have 4 crews. So it's like 1 weekend a month, or 1 week a month is your crew duty weekend, where you do your training and you go down to the base and do boat checks and stuff. When you start getting higher up in the organization, like onto the training committees and the administration committees, you tend to spend a little bit more time doing it. I'd have to say my wife thinks I spend my entire life there, but it's not completely true. But it is quite time consuming.
I don't know, she might actually have a point.
If you talk about one of the most stressful calls that we've done as a hard bay base, I would have to say it was actually done on land, and those would be the big fires that we've had in hard bay over the years. Those can get very stressful and traumatic, because obviously with fire you get a lot of burn injuries, and there's a lot of people losing properties and stuff. So that is extremely stressful. Most people see sea rescue as it's an organization that saves lives at sea. That is the standing orders. That's what we do. We save lives on inland waters and basically South African waters. But the organization is quite large, where we've got a lot of trained people that can help out in emergency situations. And for example, the fires are one of them.
What are the tall stories you can tell about your work at sea?
All right. Okay, so one of the big calls that we've had over the years, we did one. Oh, it was Operation Elbow Grease, about 2 years ago, I think. And it was a single sailor coming around from Gansbaai area to Cape Town, and sort of missed Cape Point and didn't turn up north around Cape Point because he was running on an iPad nav app, and just carried on heading out to sea. And we had to go find him, and eventually we got him 80 miles out to sea. So that's 80 miles from land. It's one of the furthest calls we've done off sea. And we launched from Hart Bay, I think it was about 12 o'clock in the afternoon, 1 o'clock, and got to him at 6 o'clock at night. And by the time we got to him, the swells were massive. The wind had picked up, and we literally got him on his last 5% of the battery of his radio. We picked him up on the DF unit, and the operation then went into dot. You're running in 5 to 6 meter swells, and you've got to transfer him across your boat, and the visibility is going down. And in that case, you are on your own. You're 80 miles from anywhere, nearest point of land. And we got him on the boat, and we had to come back in the dock, into the sea, into the swell, into the wind. And it was a very long and tedious call.
Yeah. So what kind of state was he in, this man that you
He
rescued?
was very happy to see us. He was ecstatic. I mean, when we got to the yacht, he was so ecstatic, he nearly jumped into the water to swim to us. And we're like, no, 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 stay where you are. We'll come and pick you up. Don't worry, we've got you now. We're not going to lose you. Yeah, he thought he'd seen the last. He was going to be sort of adrift at sea for 3 months.
Have you ever been involved with the rescue of an animal or a mammal?
Whales. Yeah, we do a lot of whale rescues, actually.
Whales.
And those are amazing rescues when they go right. About 10 years ago, the South African Whale Disentanglement Network teamed up with Sea Rescue. Obviously, we have a lot of skilled skippers and boats and assets available ready to go to sea. And over the years, we've had an increased number of whales getting caught in these traps. And obviously, the rope gets tied around their flukes. And sometimes it's easy to cut the ropes, and sometimes it's not.
Yeah, because you're dealing with such a big creature too.
Yeah, no, they are very large.
And
You have no
what if
idea.
they panic?
You have no idea how big a whale is until you sat next to it in an 8-meter boat, and you're like, I feel like I'm in a canoe. Um,
Wow.
yeah, so they've developed special tools, like special cutting knives and that, so you don't hurt the whale. And it's like a hook knife with a razor blade in the side. So you drag it over the rope and pull it down, and it's like a seatbelt cutter, if you want to call it, for
Mm.
ropes. But for example, there's one we caught many years ago. It was a very large female humpback, and we were there for about 2 hours cutting the ropes off, and you could see that the whale was getting more exhausted as the day went on. And eventually, the last rope was cut, and the whale just sat there, and it sort of sank below the surface. And then you could see the bubble trail, and it popped up again, and literally turned towards the boat and sort of put its head on the boat as if to say thank you, and then went away. And it's
Wow.
quite a, like, you see the whole crew are like, oh wow, it's an amazing feeling.
And it's really interesting that they seem to be sensing that you are trying to help them, because normally, with any sort of wild type of mammal, um, humans are a threat.
Yeah.
And the fact that you are there, and that they don't sort of like panic, even if in a state of exhaustion, it's quite they're quite amazing creatures.
No, look, I mean the the Whale Disentanglement Network have done a good job. It's like an international protocol on how to approach whales so you don't stress them out.
Mm,
I mean, you don't go screaming up at full throttles and mount the whale
yes.
with the boat. You've actually literally got to turn the motors off and pull yourself up the rope and do it very quietly and gently, so as not to stress the animal out. And again, we train for that.
You told a story to me that I thought actually is very reflective of all of us. It was the story of four men in a boat out on a mission. And I kind of thought that story represents all of us. We're all in the same boat.
So a few months back, we had a call, and I can't remember what the call was actually. I think we were going out to get a fishing boat which had broken down because the fishing boat's obviously still running. Um, and we jumped on the boat to launch. And as we were clearing the harbor to go out, I realized that the guys on the boat were all um, involved in sort of the restaurant industry and the alcohol industry, and they'd all literally lost their income. Is that the one?
Including you.
Yeah, I mean, the company I had is still around, but the workload ceased to exist over the last few months, and we all sat there heading out to sea. Yet we were all, how can I say, jobless
Mm.
at that point in time. Is that the one you were talking about?
Yes.
Yeah,
And I just thought, how do you find the energy to still give to volunteerism?
I don't know. It's still there. It's
Mm.
yeah, the sort of the rescue stuff is you've been doing it for so long that you sort of feel that the guys rely on you to do that, and you also need to give back at some point.
A special thanks to Freesound. This podcast was brought to you by Digital Storyteller.